each side of the body, the male and the female, have the capacity to go deep and find a spontaneous expression, a spontaneous a sense of self that is not mental, but is energetic, has an energy quality. Mm-hmm. And then this energy quality moves spontaneously according to the present moment of the needs of the present moment. And it's possible to see in an energy check that's done at the beginning of the body if this spontaneous connection has arisen in the male or in the female. If it has arisen in one of them, these spontaneous interests in life, whatever it is that fascinates you or gives you some passion, it becomes your work. Obviously, many people don't have a work like this. But in Star Sapphire, we would try to help the person have a work about which they feel love or passion or involvement and satisfaction, regardless of how much they're paid, regardless of who sees what they do. So this is the connection between presence and work. And it usually happens on one side of the body first. And so, in a lot of people, they do have a work they love, but it's only coming from one side of the body. Mm-hmm. Then, the next step in Star Sapphire is to see if the second side of the body is ready to do the same, to get rooted in itself so that it's happy alone, to find an activity which satisfies. And once this happens, that the work on one side is joyous, and the work on the second side is at least coming, or pretty satisfying. Maybe it's not the ultimate yet. Their relationship will be very good. As I was saying before, if both sides are rooted in themselves, relationship happens automatically. We don't need to fix anything. So a lot of times in Star Sapphire, we work with an individual or in groups. We have to create a context in which one of them that hasn't found their self yet has the possibility to do that. And this brings me to the subject that's very common in our work, that one side is dominant and one side is submissive. Now, I was talking before about a tennis player that keeps the ball in their court. Mm-hmm. This is typically the dominant one. And the dominant one can do it for different reasons. They can do it because they want to help the other side by supporting the life, mm-hmm. and the other side doesn't have to do it so quickly, or maybe never. A lot of men who want to take care of their wives do that. They support the whole life, and the wife does what she feels like. But it can happen in so many situations. I just wanted to make an example. Mm-hmm. Or the dominant side can actually want to destroy the other side because it feels its values are interfered with. And then we have to make a different technique. We have to take the weaker side out of the sphere of influence of the dominant side. And we often do that actually physically as well, moving the person to a place in the room where they don't feel interfered with. And amazingly, they can find this roots in themselves quite quickly.
How can this dominance look in someone's life? In their relationship, for example?
Well, if the female is dominant, she will dominate her husband or her partner.
Mm-hmm.
If the male is dominant, if the male in her is dominant, she will see that her partner dominates her,
mm-hmm.
for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that Star Sapphire deals with everyone as an individual. We don't apply principles and assume that the person has to fit into those principles.
No.
That's why I don't normally even think males are this way and females are that way, and try to make the person fit in that box.
Mickey, I think, wants to go. One moment, Mickey wants to go to Alf. Oh, thanks. So, yeah, it's just more for the listener to get some kind of picture on the outside, because for someone who doesn't know anything about their inner relationship, it might be confusing to say him and her, and so that's why I asked. It could be good to give some examples about what it might look like, even though it's definitely not the rule. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if, for example, the female is dominant in someone, what can it, and the male is not active at all or expressing himself, how could that look? How might that look in a work situation?
This was my case.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I can speak about myself a little bit.
Great.
The first thing I would say is that my female found her work at age 22 or 24.
Mm-hmm.
I started with massaging, and then from there moved to meditation. And then by age 24, I was giving groups already. Mm-hmm. And I was very satisfied with my work and have always been. But the male side participated very little in it. And until I came to Osho when I was 30, I don't think he was very awake even. He was preferring to sleep or be unconscious. And then because of becoming a disciple of Osho, the way opened for me to help him or to grow on the male side.
Mm-hmm.
And the Star Sapphire work actually is an outgrowth of what I discovered about myself growing on the second side.
Mm-hmm.
And so this growth comes from meditating, but eventually will come in the form of an opposition to what I'm already doing.
Mm-hmm.
For example, at one point, my male side said, I don't want to give sessions, so I won't give my energy to that anymore. Before that moment, the female could give 4 sessions a day. And after that moment, she could give only 2. Mm-hmm. It was very, very clear that the energy had been withdrawn. But interestingly enough, income increased. Mm-hmm. Because things were more right in my system. Mm-hmm. They were more balanced than before. Mm-hmm. And then came a moment when the 2 sides, there was a possibility to go to a party for New Year's, a long way away from my house, 3 hours driving. And my 2 sides disagreed about it. Mm-hmm. My female had all the reasons for not going. And my male had no reasons, but he wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So he contrasted her reasons. And then she knew that she was taking the decisions all the time, so she let him take this decision. Mm-hmm. She said, okay, go ahead. But he went in panic because it was the first time he'd taken a decision that she didn't agree with. Mm-hmm. So it was not so long panic, maybe one day, mm-hmm. but just the feeling of taking responsibility, and it might be my fault if it didn't come out right, mm-hmm. was a change. Mm-hmm. But after that, things went really very, very well. And actually, I should say also at the party, we had a wonderful time. And she agreed with me afterwards that I had been right. So after I got used to taking responsibility, I took more and more on the male side. I started a nonprofit association and did it for 10 years. After that, I started a business and did it for a few years. And I knew that these were not the final answer for what is his contribution to this existence, but already he was 80% happy.
How did he know that it wasn't? How did this part of you know that it wasn't what was really, what made it only 80%?
Because it was only 80%, I could feel it.
That's the answer. You didn't feel, he didn't feel, or this part of you didn't feel 100% satisfied.
Yeah. Yeah. But there were things in my life that did make me 100% satisfied. And one of them was making the music when I led groups. Every day we danced for a while first, and then there were certain moments inside a group requiring a musical background, and the male part of me was providing this, and this was making him 100% happy. And also some meditations would make him 100% happy. When there was a movement in him, more strength that was new, or when he grew, he was really happy. So,
can you say something about this satisfaction? Because in your work, you talk a lot about this satisfaction and 80% and 100%, and